Erev Tov Ashdod. Good morning in Phoenix. Greetings to friends of Israel, friends of great music around the world. My name's Wayne Firestone. I'm the executive director of the America-Israel Friendship League. We are in birthday party mode at the moment for our 50th anniversary, beginning a week of tremendous celebrations, and what better way to do it with great music coming from Israel. We know that music is one of those things that unites people, and that has been one of the themes of our series on this webinar that we bring to you twice a week since the beginning of COVID, a new way of bringing people together. But that's what you expect from Israel. You expect innovation, you expect inspiration, and indeed the theme of music is one that we have been brought back to again and again. So maybe for the moment, we can ask everyone who's joining us, wherever you are, share with us, where was your last musical concert that you were able to enjoy in person? And maybe that will put us in the right mood for seeing where some of this music comes from. It doesn't pop out of the blue. People are committed to the training and creation of beautiful music around the world. And we're going to just really look at the special methods and the special processes that have been developed in Israel, but as part of a global music scene. So tell us about where you're calling in from today, where the last great concert you attended in person, and of course, to all of you that are watching today and learning about our program, we look forward to giving you the opportunity to share your questions live. We have with us a very special host today as our panelist, who's going to introduce us behind the scenes, Dr. Uri Rom. He is the head of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music at Tel Aviv University. It has a storied history with different names over the years attached to it. Some of you may know it as the Rubin Music Academy. And indeed, we're going to explore some of that history and explore the future direction of this amazing group of musicians and music artists from around the world who come to Israel and create this very special kind of music. So we're looking forward to your questions shortly. We look forward to hearing about the great music you've created. And now take a moment to go behind the scenes. We're going to hear directly from some of the students, from some of the faculty members, from some of the performers. Take it in, think about your questions, don't wait on them, put them in the chat, and I promise we'll have time at the end to ask some questions directly. And we even may have a very nice surprise for you in the studio with Dr. Rom. And now, take a look at what it is today that the Buchmann-Mehta School is very much about. We're looking forward to sharing really a terrific example of the kind of creativity that exists in Israel today with the kind of programming and music that's brought alive from those of you that have walked around the Tel Aviv University campus that you're familiar with. And as I said, you will have an opportunity to pose your questions directly to Dr. Rom. And so now we, without further ado, we'll share this with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music, it is my pleasure to present to you this one-hour webinar produced on request of Ms. Ruby Shamir, Executive Director of the Israel Board of America-Israel Friendship League. I'm Uri Rom, since August this year, the head of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music at Tel Aviv University. I'm honored to follow in the footsteps of the school's founding director, Professor Tomer Lev, whom we will also meet in this webinar, and Professor Ze'ev Dorman. We at the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music are proud to continue the legacy of the former Tel Aviv Rubin Academy of Music and the outstanding musical figures who run this institution in its previous format. We would have loved to showcase today all of our excellent faculty and students, but time will not permit. Instead, we prepared for you a taste of the school's activities which I will be happy to present to you in conversation with my colleagues. The Buchmann-Mehta School of Music, founded in 2004, is, strictly speaking, not exactly an old institution. However, it was erected on the foundation of the Rubin Tel Aviv Academy of Music, which in its earliest forms goes back to 1945, and which is easily Israel's oldest institution for training musicians at an academic level. Among ourselves, my colleagues and I often slip into referring to ourselves as the Accademia LeMusica, the Music Academy. After all, many of us studied here, as, for instance, I myself in the early 90s. At a time, the Music Academy was directed by the magnificent violinist and violin pedagogue Yair Kless. But studying in the old Accademia LeMusica Music Academy was not just for the period of studies. One would grow, so to speak, into it. My parents' bar mitzvah present to me was Itzhak Sadai's seminal harmony treatise, which I show every time to my students as the Tel Aviv music theorist's Bible. I studied conducting privately with Maestro Noam Sharif before coming to study with him here at the Music Academy. Many of my co-students and I made the acquaintance of, say, piano professor Emanuel Krosowski or composition professor Leon Shidlovsky at a summer camp of the Israeli music youth back then in the 80s, adored teachers with whom we were to study later on at the Music Academy, along such notable figures as the composer and conductor Professor Ami Mayani, the theorist Lev Bogoslavsky, and many others. The transformation of the Rubin Academy of Music into the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music occurred following a worldwide financial crisis in the early 2000s. In Hebrew we say, Me'az yatsa matok. The sour fruit has turned sweet. This applies also to our music school. Our institution was fortunate to gain its two name givers, Maestro Zubin Mehta, Israel's foremost conductor for many decades, and our lifelong patron, Mr. Joseph Buchmann. In addition to this, a worldwide unprecedented connection, to the best of my knowledge, was created between the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra and the nascent music school. We are privileged to train, among outstanding instrumental and vocal soloists, composers, conductors, and music researchers, the next generation of leading Israeli orchestral musicians, in close collaboration with philharmonic players who teach, train, and rehearse with our students. But let now the music speak. One of the greatest assets of our collaboration with the Israel Philharmonic are the annual festive concerts conducted by the Philharmonic Orchestra's music director. For many years, Maestro Zubin Mehta would free a meaningful slot in his busy calendar to prepare magnificent concerts with our symphony orchestra, showcasing some of the school's most promising soloists. Join us in listening to the opening of Ravel's ballet suite, Daphnis et Chloé, performed by the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music Symphony Orchestra under the baton of Honorary President Maestro Zubin Mehta in May 2017. Since the school's founding, the festive gala concerts under the baton of Maestro Zubin Mehta have been the highlights of every academic year. On many occasions, Maestro Mehta would be joined by the school's patron, Dr. Honoris Causa Joseph Buchmann, and university representatives for memorable ceremonies in which outstanding students would receive certificates of merit from Maestro Mehta himself. Here are some memories from the last decade's ceremonies featuring Mehta, Buchmann, Professor Josef Klafter, the former Tel Aviv University president, and Professor Zeev Dorman, the former director of the music school. Like many other traditions worldwide, our gala concerts were interrupted by the COVID pandemic. Thanks to the vaccinations, Israel is now gradually returning to normality. In fact, we have been fortunate to open the current academic year 2021-2022 with an almost complete return to routine. Although it is too early to renew our tradition of festive gala concerts, Maestro Lahav Shani, who has now entered his first season as music director of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra, was determined to help us out of the 1.5 years of relative stagnation in our activity. He will conduct the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music Symphony Orchestra in a concert featuring our vocal and instrumental soloists, as well as Debussy's masterpiece, La Mer, on November 24th. We would like to kindly invite you to this opening of the academic year concert, which, for the music school, is above anything else a celebration of return to normality. In the short time since entering his new position as the music director of the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra, rising international conducting star Lahav Shani has stepped into Maestro Mehta's footsteps also as a true and warm friend of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music. The current academic year started with a spectacular present to our conducting department. Lahav Shani's 3-day conducting masterclass with students of the school's prestigious orchestral conducting program, headed by revered conductor Yoav Talmi, along with the sought-after conductor and conducting pedagogue Ian Shaw. Let us watch some moments from this conducting workshop in which Maestro Lahav Shani developed a special personal and pedagogical relationship with our highly motivated conducting students.
Just you are in charge. You don't ask for communication. You create it. Okay? I want to show you. After just one bar before Q vivace, look, you do a little bit something like this. Now you're not conducting for some reason, so she's just basically this. Wait. Okay? And now prepare ahead, so bar before. I don't do much Q vivace, just change the car.
Due to the prominent collaboration with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra and its music director, orchestral training and orchestral conducting are, of course, written large in our study program. But vocal performance certainly has a prominent place in the spotlight also. The music school features 2 choirs, a large oratorio choir and a chamber choir, and a prestigious choral conducting program, all of which are directed by Professor Ronen Boroshevsky. Let's plunge now into one of Bach's most inspiring works, the Gloria movement from the High Mass in B minor, performed, recorded, and broadcasted to our subscription concert audience during the COVID health crisis. So this was a, how should I say it, a COVID interpretation of Bach's High Mass in B minor. And Gili, who is a master's student in choir conducting, sitting next to me, I didn't see you on stage. Were you there?
I wasn't there.
Were you part of this production, yes or no?
Yes and no. I was part of the project and I helped. I both sang in the choir and helped with sectionals, but due to the COVID crisis, we had to
reduce
the number of singers right on in the last minute.
So you thought, I'm going on stage, and then suddenly, no, I'm not, because it's not allowed.
Yes, it was about a day before, 2 days.
Right. Yes. So in what ways did you participate in this production? You assisted Ronen Boroshevsky as a choir conductor, doing what?
Well, I mostly helped with sectionals when necessary, which meant I helped rehearse with specific sections of the choir, the sopranos, the basses, and I also helped by actually singing in the choir and
so you were involved until the very last minute, but of course, as a choir conducting student, this helped you quite a lot, because you need to get, the most important thing for a conductor is to get practice with actual singers, because you have to monitor their intonation, their pronunciation, right? So in that, you certainly helped Ronen a lot.
I hope I did. And I know I helped myself.
Yes, it's the learning process. And actually, I know you as a composition student. You started at our school doing composition, and you moved to the master's degree doing choir conducting. So can you tell us just one word about this? Is it a process you underwent?
Well, I still consider myself a composer. I still compose, and I did do my bachelor's here in composition. And then I had an opportunity to go study some choral conducting with Ronen. And I loved conducting, and I saw it as a wonderful opportunity, which I very happily took. And now I hope that I can do both.
Yes, so let's hope next performance you're on stage. Thank you very much, Gil.
Thank you.
Christe, Christe,
And we remain vocal. With me here is Professor Sharon Rostov-Zamir, head of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music's vocal department. Hi, Sharon, great to see you here.
Hi, Uri.
How is it to direct the vocal department here?
So just to give you a little bit of background, I studied here very shortly when I was 16 and
Right.
had an opportunity to experience this place. So it's an interesting cycle and closure of going on to just be here and be the
Right,
head of
it was
voice.
before you went to Frankfurt
Exactly.
to be part of the
Yes.
ensemble of the opera there.
Yeah.
And you came back, I think, about 10 years, no, more than 10 years ago. And you became head of the department about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, there are many changes ongoing. Can you tell us a little about your policy, about your ideas for the department?
My vision was to expose the singers to the real world today,
Sure.
and not to keep them in a protected bubble, just in a school environment, but to expose them mainly in terms of repertoire to a vaster pieces from all the periods, not just Mozart, not just Baroque, not just Bach, but also more modern, more some original compositions. And just so that they know what they will have to face in the real world when they are finished with their degree.
Right, your students have been doing an Israeli opera, musical productions, and, for instance, Carlo Menotti's Medium, a very somber special opera, one that is not very often produced in Israel. What guided you in this choice?
Again, it was the search for a different repertoire, and it just suited the concept together with director Alon Tiran, who is our acting teacher.
Right.
And we wanted to venture into a more interesting, different dramatic language and vocal language.
Definitely. So let us watch now an excerpt from Monica's Waltz from Carlo Menotti's Medium. So that was Carlo Menotti's Medium, and now to something completely different, but actually something which is much more usual in the world of vocal departments, Mozart. But as a Mozart scholar, I know that actually there is nothing more difficult than performing Mozart with good taste and in a proper manner, because he's so exposed and so demanding vocally. We had actually 2 recent vocal productions of Mozart operas, both during the COVID crisis. Can you tell us a little about these?
Absolutely. So as a continuation of our vocal department vision, of course, Mozart has to be the bread and butter. Sure. So we had planned the Magic Flute, and then COVID came. So we had a COVID version, which was very moving, and we could do the full opera, including German dialogues. So the students benefited, again, from knowing the full dialogues. And after that, we did the Così fan tutte, which was also a semi-covered version, but it was fully staged, fully costumed, and we were very lucky to have the right cast
But
for
without
it.
audience. Without
audience,
right.
That's right, without the audience, yeah. And again, you know, those are much more difficult roles. Dorabella and Fiordiligi, they are very, as you said, exposed and very difficult, and have a huge range of vocal expression, and very low, very high, very intricate.
Yes, but it was an exceptionally successful production. I myself had huge fun together with my colleague Ian Shaw doing a 2-piano version to accompany your singers, which we prepared especially for this production, and which was, I think, all things considered, matching replacement of the orchestra. Let's watch the end of the first act of Così fan tutte. So this was Mozart, Così fan tutte, first act finale, just a snippet. Thank you so much, Sharon. I think we showcasted the vocal department in a very complimentary way.
Thank you very much, Uri.
With me is now my dear colleague, Professor Tomer Lev, my predecessor as head of the school, but also the founding director of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music. Hello, Tomer. Great to see you here.
Great to be here.
And we already told our viewers about the process which led to this revolutionary transformation of the historical Rubin Academy of Music, Tel Aviv, into the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music. I followed this progression from a safe distance. I was there in Berlin doing conducting and teaching conducting at the Berlin University of the Arts. And I heard from people here about lots of concern. This process was not a simple one. And you were there, you made this move. So tell us a little about this.
Well, in 2004, I was appointed head of the school. I was 37 at the time. I think I was the youngest director of the school ever. And as an opening chord of my term as the head of the school, the university decided that they cannot sustain any further
That's a very dissonant chord.
Yeah, very dissonant chord. The education of young musicians, because it's very expensive. There's one-on-one lessons. There are very expensive instruments. You have to maintain an orchestra, choirs, and so on and so on. And in order to keep the high level of music training in Israel and not give up what we have achieved, we decided that one locomotive is not enough, and Tel Aviv University cannot be the only locomotive to take care of music education in Israel. And we approached our dear colleagues at the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra, which anyway were involved in a way, de facto.
As teachers.
And it was also the same group of people that formed historically the Israel Philharmonic and the school back in the 30s and the 40s. Sure. So it was very logical that we approached them. We approached also Zubin Mehta and asked him to become our president, our honorary president, and that the school will be affiliated not only with Tel Aviv University, but also with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra.
Which is, to the best of my knowledge, worldwide an unprecedented amalgam, this combination of an orchestra and a music school in one, in a way.
To that extent, this is the only example that I know. Of course, there are collaborations between schools and orchestras, but to the extent that one school has two affiliations, one to a leading university and one to a leading orchestra, and they join forces together in the strategy to strategize how to train the future generation of musicians.
And we see the results now, actually every day. So could you elaborate on this? Things have changed a lot since then.
Yeah, I think that first of all, our students are involved already while studying here with the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra. Every concert that you go to the Israel Philharmonic, you see our students on stage. It's part of the practical training to play with the orchestra. So the orchestra looks younger than ever, and they...
To say nothing of our graduates.
Let alone our graduates who are winning the auditions, and I think about one half of the orchestra now is our graduates.
Oh, we should do the counting, yes.
Yeah, and the orchestra is very young. The Israel Philharmonic had become very, very young as a result of this collaboration. And of course, the biggest stars of the world who come to play and to conduct the Israel Philharmonic Orchestra, they are all asked to give one day to our school. So the flow of megastars that come and work with our students is really
we have benefited.
It's no school of music. No school of music can show such a flow.
Just a few names: Yuja Wang, Christoph Eschenbach, and conductors who are coming this year. We have, for instance, Alan Gilbert, Kavakos, and well, you name it.
Yeah, well, basically it's the whole gallery.
We have been watching some of the productions of the vocal department, and now we're returning to the instruments, but not to the orchestral instruments, but rather to our largest, actually, department at the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music, the piano department, numbering, I think, about 60 students at any given moment, and headed currently by Professor Asaf Zohar. Of course, this department is mainly in charge of upbringing pianists according to traditional models, the concert pianist and accompanist and chamber music pianist, but also there are some very unconventional things going on in this department. And one of these is your project, Tomer, Multipiano, which is also your name creation. Tell us a little about this very special ensemble.
Yeah, being a pianist myself, I've raised several generations of young pianists who became already younger colleagues of mine and reached a professional level. And the idea was to take the finest talents during the last stage of their studies and go on stage together with them and play with them together as an ensemble. And the idea was to create a modular piano ensemble that will enable us to play together in one piano, 4 hands, 2 pianos, 8 hands, 3 pianos, 4 pianos, with orchestra, without orchestra. And I think the best and the most original combination is with a percussion ensemble, because the blend of the piano sound.
Well, Bartók treated piano as a percussion instrument. And you've been throughout the world with this ensemble already, right?
Yeah, we had about 15 concert tours in its 10 years of existence of the multi-piano ensemble, from South America to the Far East and anything in between.
So let's pick one moment of the most exciting collaboration, which you said was with percussionist, the 100th anniversary of Gustav Holst, The Planets. Tell us a little about this.
Right. The Planets is an iconic work, and those of the viewers who know the work, but those who don't would probably recognize the sounds
immediately
very soon. And the idea was to take this iconic work and its 100th anniversary and revolutionize the score. And we asked 7 different Israeli composers to take each one movement dedicated to a different planet.
Right.
And to rewrite it for 2 pianos, 8 hands, and a percussion ensemble. Altogether, 8 performers. And the result was really breathtaking.
So each planet got its special timbre and special atmosphere. Right.
Special profile, actually.
Yes.
And we gave the premiere performance of this new version at Merkin Hall in New York in 2018. So we will see a little bit of it. The whole thing is almost 1 hour long, but we'll see a clip of 3
minutes. It's a selection. But combining several
of the planets
together.
Right.
Thank you, Tomer. These are the planets as they never sounded before, I think. With this combination, with these timbres, it's really exciting. But now to something else, which is very exciting. Breaking news. Tonight, your student, Tom Borrow, is playing in America. Is that true?
Yeah, well, as said, our students are, some of them, the most prominent ones, are doing really professional careers, leading professional careers, while they're still studying. And one of the most prominent talents that we have is Tom Borrow, who is 21. And tonight, as we speak, actually at this very moment, he does his debut with the Cleveland Orchestra, which is one of the most prominent orchestras of the world. And he does,
playing what?
He's playing Ravel Concerto.
Ravel
he has
Concerto.
a whole series
Yes.
of 3 concerts with the Cleveland Orchestra. And,
Fabulous, yes.
I hope that tomorrow morning our viewers from the Cleveland area will open the newspapers and hopefully see raving reviews.
We will all do that.
Yeah, about his playing. I'll just mention that many of our students at the piano department win international prizes. And if we take Tom as an example, right after he does his Cleveland debut, he does a recording with the BBC Symphony Orchestra in London, and then with the Czech Philharmonic, and then with the Sao Paulo Symphony Orchestra. So he's leading a worldwide career while still a student at our school.
Definitely. So we are wishing him from here all luck and good success for tonight. We now move on to composition. With me here is Professor Rubin Serusi, head of the composition department. We just made a calculation before for over 20 years, Rubin.
Yeah.
It was a very long and meaningful period, also in the sense of compositional revolutions worldwide, and many things changed. But I know that you have a very stable credo for our department.
Yeah, we strive for being with the avant-garde, most avant-garde trends, informed by them. But from the other side, we also believe in a strong and deep study of tradition and on the development of the capabilities of our students to learn from the old masters when they are creating their new works.
Definitely, the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music is one of the few schools worldwide which has managed to preserve a curriculum of old masters, as you call them. Mm-hmm. So we still teach here Bach and Palestrina counterpoint and 4 years of harmony. And as you say, it's not a contradiction; it's a continuation. It's a
complementation. It's really important, and we see the need in our very confused world to get the strength and the confidence in the old knowledge that involves in itself the deep roots of creation. So from the other side, we are in touch with other departments of composition in Europe. Mainly, we do common exchanges.
Right.
We did it with Stuttgart, with Ensemble Ictus in Belgium many years ago. Later, in a project called Beethoven 2020 in Berlin, with Basel Academy and Thessalonica University of Greece. And now we are doing a project with Ensemble Recherche in Freiburg. So we really believe in this being in touch organically with the new music world. And also we host composers and performers of contemporary music in our weekly meeting of composition students. So
this is an ongoing seminar.
Yeah. So we feel that we are really...
You keep in touch with the time and with
from all the directions and from all the edges.
And also some of the departments also of the historical music academy, Rubin Music Academy, have become world-known composers. I'm thinking, for instance, on Chaya Chernobin, now at Harvard, but of course world-known, or Avner Dorman. So I think we also have some people coming up in their footsteps following in their footsteps?
Yeah, we have other recent students that have developed really
International careers.
career as
Yes.
composers, like Yair Klartag or Erez Holtz or Eliav Kol or Adi Snir, which two of them are already starting to teach at our institution.
Sure.
So we are very happy to have a kind of continuity in the process.
So now we are going to listen to music by two pupils who are still in the nursery in our department, and they are prestigious to get performed at our ongoing course, the workshop for contemporary music. So we are going to listen to whom?
We are going to listen to, first of all, a piece by Inbar Sharet called The Wind, that is for singers, a trombone player. It's an interactive and half improvised work, written out but with open possibilities for
Yes.
performance. So they did a long work for a full semester, and it was
Developing it together.
Yeah, developing
Yes.
it together. And the other work will be by Yehudar Shashua, a work called Once. That is for singer and a small ensemble. In fact, these are fruits of the work of the workshop for contemporary music that brings together the composers with performers, and they do two concerts at the end of each of the semesters that are full of works of the contemporary repertoire of the world, plus all the works that composition students present for
Right, which
performance.
goes to show how important it is that modern performers know modern composers and collaborate. So let's listen. Some of our faculty members here at the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music are particularly and personally invested in Israeli music, also music by the founding generation of Israeli composers. I'm thinking, for instance, of the two pianists, Michal Tal and Ofra Yitzhaki, and of my colleague who is sitting here next to me, Professor Hillel Tzori, worldwide, internationally acclaimed cellist, also active as conductor and recently also composer, and head of our string department for already many years. I don't even know how many.
I would say more than 20 years already.
More than 20 years. And Hillel, we talked so much about the orchestral forces of the BMSM of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music today. So I would like to turn viewers' attention to one of your recent projects, something which happened during the COVID crisis, a very special project with your cello class, with 12 cellists. You participated in the Jerusalem Festival, in the Israel Festival in Jerusalem, doing a very special program, also featuring Dodecalogue, Treisa, the piece by Noam Sherif, who was, by the way, also my conducting teacher back then. And tell us a little about this very special concert, about this piece, before we are going to hear some of it.
Well, first of all, it's also a collaboration with the Felicia Blumenthal Music Center, which actually this series calls Poem Balev, which is, you could say, it's sort of a heartbeat.
Heartbeat,
You
right.
could say might be the right
The music of
name.
the heart, maybe.
Yeah, and so it was featured in the Israeli festival September 2020, and for that I was asked to actually create a program which based on solely cello music from 1 to 12, and it was just naturally for me to have the Dodecalogue by Noam Sharif to perform with my class, which actually we have done quite a few times. Every few years I do it.
For internal purposes, and now you just went out with this.
Yes, and Noam Sharif, I think he's an inspiration. He was a very inspirational figure. And I remember my father took me to meet him when I played his solo piece, we called Confession, when I was 17, and he actually then it was a record, the 1978 recording of the Dodecalogue with the 12 cellists of Berlin Philharmonic, and obviously it was a good start, and then it became part of my repertoire. And so this collaboration with the Israel Festival, we started the program with this piece and
with Dodecalogue. So let's listen to an expert from Dodecalogue by Noam Sharif with Hillel Tzori's 12th cellist at the Israel Festival of 2021. No,
2020. 2020, yes.
Thank you, Hillel. This was a very touching homage to Noam Sharif, who had passed away just a few months earlier. And you dedicated this performance to his memory, but not only this performance, but also an original piece you wrote for this occasion.
Yeah, I wrote a piece called Choshen, which is
it's the breastplate of the high priest in Jerusalem,
the Holy
Temple.
Yeah, and it actually talks to it radiates to the name Treasar Dodecalogue because it means the 12
it's
number.
It's also 12, right? The number of tribes and month.
Yeah, and obviously using 12 cellists for this performance was just
perfect.
The result of it. And well, this is all inspiration as being myself a student of the legendary Professor Uzi Wiesel, who was very much attached to all the Israeli music activity here. Yes. Yosef Tal, Noam Sharif, Ami Mayani. I mean, he was a pioneer in so many senses. And so this is my mentor. And naturally, I continued this course of thinking and
so this is also in a way an homage to Uzi Wiesel. All you're doing in this, including maybe your upcoming premiere performance of your own cello concerto now in the Israeli Music Fest?
Well, you cannot guess. This was just the right guess.
An educated one, yes.
Yes, and it's a cello concerto that I'm finishing these days. It's actually a homage to Casals, but in memory
also composed quite a lot, right?
Yeah, and in memory of Uzi Wiesel, who used to was his student also of Casals.
So we're looking forward to this premiere performance and all the best for completing this piece in time.
Well, it's quite soon, and it definitely will be
You're going to perform it yourself?
Yes.
And it's going to be on December?
Supposed to be December 23 with the Jerusalem Israel Camerata and Ilan Volkov. And
great. All chances are for a spectacular performance.
I hope so. I believe so.
One of my most important objectives as head of the music school is to increase and boost our social activity in various ways and in various projects. A pilot project with youth from the periphery is planned for mid-December. One of our faculty members who has been doing this professionally and with great involvement for several years already is musicologist Ofer Gazit, who has directed a course called in Hebrew Bait Mishir. This is actually a pun because it means both a strophe out of a song and build your home made of music. He got people from the periphery coming here to the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music to perform music for the first time after they have been trained for an entire year by our students in Petach Tikva. Let's watch a video clip from this concert. We started with the Gala concert recording of the Buchmann-Mehta School of Music Symphony Orchestra playing under the baton of Maestro Zubin Mehta. And we say goodbye with another recording, this time from the Gala concert of January 2016 with Schumann's Spring Symphony.
Well, Uri, when you first described the ambition with which you wanted to share the Buchmann-Mehta School within 1 hour, I didn't think we could pull it off. But you also asked to save a little bit of time for maybe a surprise at the end. And so you've covered the modern to the masters, you've covered magic flutes to magic strings, you've even brought us piano to percussion and fused together with the planets, which is still ringing in my ears. And now sitting next to you in the studio, you brought us the 2017 Israel Prize laureate, Aryeh Vardi. What does it mean to you to have two generations of this amazing musical legacy in the same room, and why was that so important to you to try to get into a 1 hour program?
Thank you so much, sir. First of all, let me, if possible,
Please,
welcome Uri. He's hosting me, but I feel like hosting him and accepting with love his academic leadership and wishing him great success as the 11th head of our school.
We just counted. Well, in fact, Arik was the third director of the Rubin Academy of Music back then, and I'm fortunate to be the third director of this music school after following Zev Dorman and Tomer Lev. So we're sort of we share positions as thirds, but it's much more than this. I think all our viewers in Tel Aviv and elsewhere in Israel know Arik from so many, for instance, from his excellent TV show Intermezzo, in which he brought music to really every household in Israel. And I personally, I told Arik recently, started my music education in your children concerts. I remember every word you said there because it was so influential for me, and the way you presented it, I can only compare it to what Lenny did in his concerts for the broad audience, and it transferred my understanding of music back then at the age of 8 or something like this, and it was therefore so meaningful for me to bring Arik along as our surprise guest. So it's the generation, the continuation, the history of our institution in both its formats, and the making of good music and sharing it with people at the most communicative and highest level we can. So maybe Wayne, would you like to give us any questions?
Uri, there's so much to unpack here, but one of the things that struck me when we were listening to the master class from Lahav Shani, he was speaking in English. Even though obviously the school is in Tel Aviv, at Tel Aviv University, can you tell us a little bit about the composition of the students you're attracting? Obviously, the orchestra is a world-class orchestra, but tell us a little bit about who you're attracting and why that is.
Right. First of all orchestra rehearsals are held in English because we have many international students. We have a flourishing international program for excellent students for whom we get scholarships from prestigious donors, and this is operating since 2008, so 4 years after the school's foundation. And well, we have now a conductor from Tbilisi with whom we communicate in English. So also the conducting lessons and everything else, or many other workshops are held in English. And so we try to bring people from all over the world, from Brazil and from Ukraine and from many other spots worldwide to our little hometown. Well, it's not little anymore. We are 1 million or even more than this citizens in Tel Aviv. So it's becoming well, widely internationally renowned school. And one of the gems are our international program. And Arik has also brought us many excellent students over the last decade. If I only think about, first let me congratulate you and us for your excellent pianist student, Ilya Ovcharenko from Ukraine. Am I right?
Yes,
from Ukraine?
Kiev.
From Kiev even, who just won a very prestigious prize at the Michelangelo competition, which is a very special competition actually a unique one, right?
Yes, just last week in Epan, next to Bolzano, North Italy, and the jury is the public. This is the only one competition judged by the public. You may point some disadvantages, that the public is carried away by virtuosity, etc., but not really, because this public in Epan is judging annually competitions since 10 years or 20 years.
So they're educated, they're musically.
And you can win a competition by playing Mozart and the most delicate. It is a kind of a public of feinschmeckers, of
that's the audience pianists should be judged by, I think.
Yes.
Right. So you see, this is a flourishing program hosting pianists and violinists and singers. So come study with us here at Tel Aviv.
Well, we are so thrilled to be sharing what the significance of this marriage of two different institutions has created and why it is unique and really an incredible gift to future generations. And I love this image, I have to repeat it again in English, of the program you created to bring music to all corners of Israel. Build your home made of music. What a wonderful vision and hope and prayer for all of us, for all of humanity, and really a very universal message, but a special one coming particularly from Tel Aviv, and an inclusive one, because so many of your alumni, whether they're in Belgium or Berlin or in Cleveland, are bringing the musical fruit that you've created in Tel Aviv and bringing it throughout the world. Well, when we first sat down to do this, Uri, we're now at the top of the hour. I don't think we've ever covered this much content in the course of our 1 hour webinar. So I'm thrilled that we did that, but we knew from the beginning the one thing we couldn't do was actually also have a full concert. But our surprise that we want to share with the audience, that as a result of the long-term thinking and the need for getting through a very tough year of 2021, that on December 29th, we're going to offer a full concert. It's a surprise as to what it'll be, but we've already seen comments in our chat today of people asking us for it. I could have predicted it. We did predict it, and we came up with a Solomonic solution that we would do both. We would show people behind the scenes how music is created and why it's such a legacy in Israel, but then we would also offer a glimpse not just of how it's made, but of the final product. And so we invite everyone to the concert. Details will be forthcoming. Of course, we will provide copies for those of you that have asked it of the very rich variety of music that we shared today and the people behind the scenes helping create it. As I mentioned earlier, this is an important celebratory week for the America-Israel Friendship League. We begin a series of celebrations in New York, and we want to invite everyone as part of our webinar series to join with us also live from NASDAQ, where we will be celebrating Israel Day at NASDAQ. Note, it will be a special time. It's earlier than a regular broadcast, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, where we will be AIFL at NASDAQ with President Reuven Rivlin helping introduce a high-tech seminar with leading high-tech figures that are dual listed between the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange and NASDAQ. We'll be joined by Randy Zuckerberg and from other executives from the United States. Again, Tel Aviv, Israel, innovation, and that is what the brand of Israel is today and will be for many years to come. So please join with us. Everyone have a safe week. Uri and Aryeh, thanks so much for being with us and for your whole team that put together this magical program today. להתראות.
Thanks so much. להתראות.
Thank you.